right, episode 1. This is What About This? I'm Keith, Travis, Ryan, Kyle. Kyle's going to tell us about our sponsor for this episode.
Yeah, What About This is brought to you by Always Green Synthetic Grass, serving the greater Orange County area with all your synthetic lawn needs. Shout out to Oscar. Make sure you check them out at agsgrass.com.
All right, cool. So this week, or this episode, is Objective Beauty. Trav, you're the one who first brought this to us, and we've been going back and forth ever since. So why don't you explain us how we got into it?
Yeah, this conversation actually came about with just having conversations with people about whether it's music or film or fashion, food, whatever it was, and just kind of getting frustrated a little bit with why don't you see what I see, and why can't you see that this is better than this, and this is objectively. And so I started asking the question, well, maybe there's something more to this. Is there such a thing as objective beauty? Is there such a thing as a song being objectively good?
All right, cool. So let's get to the episode. It got a little heated at some points. Some things were said. Travis called Kyle a 2, so Kyle's gonna go cry after this.
Yeah. You're at least a 4, man.
Thank you.
So let's get into the episode, and then yeah, let's just get into it.
So here's the question: Is there such thing as objective beauty?
I'll go first. No, not at all. Because, well, not at all, but I feel like beauty has to be subjective. Because if beauty is objective, then it opens up way too big of a realm for other things to be objective as well, like taste and things like that.
So here's the deal. So my whole thing is, and you guys know this, is I think that there's such a thing as objective beauty. So for example, and here's kind of the illustration of it going on a couple months ago, is the Victoria's Secret fashion show, right? And so these are supposed to be like the most beautiful women in the world. And so the point being is that they're all beautiful, and no one can argue that. And whether you could see it or not, it is irrelevant.
Right, but those girls, whatever, are objectively beautiful based off of the standards of our culture that we have decided, hey, this is beauty. So the interesting thing about that, in my mind, is what if you took those same girls and put them in a different time or a different place, different country even right now? Would everybody go, yes, objectively beautiful, or would they say, no, that's not what beauty looks like to me? So to me, that makes beauty subjective.
Mm-hmm. That's where I am.
Yeah, but see, so here's the point. The point is that, so you have, whether it's fashion or music, we'll take, like, Kanye West is objectively good. Jay-Z is objectively good. That is an objectively good
according to who?
Right. No, but you can't say that. You can't say like Kanye West is objectively good because we're back to palette now. That if I don't like rap music, you'll never be able to convince me of
There's
that.
a ton of people that
here's the thing.
don't think Kanye West is good.
But here's the problem with that: is you guys are really talking about two different things. You're talking about sort of really pleasure, and that's the guy who doesn't like Kanye West. He doesn't like rap music, but that doesn't mean that Kanye West isn't objectively good as rap music. Meaning that you're judging it on taste, not pleasure. And taste and pleasure, I think, are two different things.
But so now let's go even a step further. You're saying that he is objectively good as a rap artist.
Right.
Well, now I'll scale back even further within the subjectivity and go, well, I think that's nonsense because I don't even like rap. I don't find rap appealing at all.
But you're not talking about taste, you're talking about pleasure. And I think
he's saying, is rap objectively good? Or is rap objectively beautiful? Because lots of people would say no.
Okay,
but there is an objective quality to it. There's an objective quality to the appreciation of rap. You can appreciate rap on its own terms, and you can learn those terms, and that still is objective.
But doesn't the fact that some people would objectively say, I don't like rap, make it subjective?
But they're not objective. Anytime you say, I like something, you're not talking about subjectivity.
That becomes a subjective issue.
That is a subjective issue.
And that's the whole point of subjectivity. So that's why we have that.
So there's 5 sunsets.
But saying Kanye West is good is not saying I like Kanye West. Those are two different statements.
Okay. Agreed.
But so here's the thing is is you can only reach, and I feel like this is going to come up a lot tonight, within talking about objectivity of something like the Kanye West is a good rapper. The best that you'll be able to do, at least in convincing me, is just stalemate. To where you can go, Kanye West is an objectively good rapper. Even if you don't like rap, you can't refute that. And I'll go, I don't like him. Like,
right. But that's my whole point. So you kind of go, all right. So you got 7 days in a week, and let's say the sun. We go down and we see 7 sunsets.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so what I'm saying is a sunset is objectively beautiful. I may just like Wednesday night sunset, and you may like Monday night sunset. But we're not arguing whether or not a sunset is beautiful. A sunset is beautiful, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think, what you say. It doesn't matter. It just is. But when it gets in that's where it gets into palate. That's where it gets into subjectivity. That's where it gets into I prefer, my preference. And so when you get into like say a Kanye it's not. I don't like country music. Right. I think country music is trash. I don't like it, but here's the deal.
I think we all agree on
that.
Yeah.
But the other deal too is my wife loves, right? Amanda loves reggae. I hate reggae. I like don't like. Okay, I don't hate reggae. So here's the I don't. But I know it's good. Like I know when I hear good reggae, I know when I hear good country music, I know when I hear good. I even think it's not that Jay-Z doesn't make,
but good according to.
So now you're back to your preference.
No, so here's the here's the point. I'm saying that things are objectively good, whether you can see it or not. So within this whole idea is some people, and we'll kind of get into this, but they're limited. I think people.
No, everyone is limited. That's why we have the word subjective.
Yeah. So let me
because
say
to you, that's objectively right, and this person over here is going, well, I disagree, and that's where the word subjective comes from.
Again, I think you're using subjective and objective in a particular way. And so when we're talking about objective, at least in the way I'm understanding it, is I don't mean, when I say there's objective beauty, maybe it's different from what Travis, but I still essentially agree with him, is that I'm not saying that the thing itself has some sort of intrinsic, inherent quality of beauty. I'm saying that in our assessment of it, in our evaluation of it, in our judgment of it, we are going to say that thing is beautiful for a number of reasons. One of them is, I am not interested in its beauty. I don't need it to be beautiful for its beauty to be apparent to me. Meaning like if you think about a flower, right? A flower doesn't need inherent, it doesn't need to be the way it is to have, to function properly, right? Okay. So if I'm saying that thing's beautiful, I am, and it's a term that several, people who write on this, including sort of, John Keats, Immanuel Kant, they call it disinterestedness. So this idea of I am not interested in it, so I have disinterest in its beauty. So if that's the case, and I still consider it beautiful, I don't have, and he calls it dependent beauty. It needs a purpose. It doesn't need a purpose to be beautiful, so it's a free beauty, which means it just is beautiful, right? And so that's my assessment of it.
So where I'm coming is that it just you say intrinsic beauty, right? And what I'm saying is it's not subject to your opinion. It just is. I'm saying that thing is inherently beautiful, whether you. So I think some people actually know how to dress,
right?
And I think other people cannot see it. Right. They can't see it but I think it's this. And the classic example is when I get into fashion, right? And so we disagree on some of these things, because when it gets into fashion, you go, okay, the classic Van. That thing has stood the test of time. That is good, and it just happens to be called the classic, which is, I don't know, just really helpful for my point. But you look at it and you go, that thing came into play, I don't know whatever year it came out. But you look at that and you go, that has always looked good. Now Vans has come out with a gang of different shoes that have not stood the test of time. And what I'm saying is you know that you know that you know, and this is why I always go, why can't you see this? Like I look at it and I go, okay, so why can't you see that doesn't, like you don't know how to wear those jeans. You don't, but hold on. So you don't. There's a way that looks good on you, and even here's the deal too: is just because society is saying this is what is in right now when it comes to fashion, right? Doesn't mean it looks good. What I'm saying is not only are some things
It transcends culture. Is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of go, look, man, like even you shouldn't wear it because it looks poor. It doesn't look good on you. It doesn't look good on you. Therefore, you shouldn't wear it. But you're not going to be the determining factor on whether or not you wearing it makes that look
because
good.
Trav's opinion of the outfit it doesn't look good.
So here's your problem. This
because
is
it doesn't.
Hold on. This is how. Hold on. Time out.
It doesn't look good.
This is how you're only going to reach a stalemate because you have nothing to do. You have nothing to say against this. Okay. If you go like this, say dude walks up and he is wearing nice boots with stupid jeans.
Yes,
I know that bothers you.
Yes. If you don't have boot money, if you have boot money, you gotta have jean money.
So say homie walks up and he is just wearing those Saint Laurent boots, but he's got Wranglers on. He's wrong. He's got hold on. So watch this. So this is why you're gonna run into a stalemate because you walk up and you go, dude, those are the wrong jeans for those boots, man. And he goes, no, they're not. And you go, no, dude, like, trust me. Like, those jeans don't look good with those boots. And he goes, yes, they do. And you go, no, they don't. He goes, yes, they do. You're literally going to be able to do that back and forth until one of you dies because all you are doing now is telling each other back and forth your opinion.
So, but here's the problem with that. A, the guy who would buy Saint Laurent boots would not buy Wranglers.
You know what I mean.
And so when I would
first... Like 3 years ago, Trav came into my office and said, "Hey man, you can't wear those shoes." It's a real thing.
No, but this is a big case study. We talk about this because I finally met somebody in Ryan that actually admitted when he said, "I don't care what I wear." I said, "You do care what you wear." He goes, "Okay, I do to a degree." And I said, "Okay, good. Now we have now." And so he went up and he was he was on stage, and I go, "You can't wear those jeans with those shoes, man. You just can't do it. It doesn't make sense." He goes, "Help me." And I said, I'm glad you asked. Right. And so
I just didn't, like, I'll learn. So I just had no idea.
So he goes, I can't see it. And I said, I can. And so this is part of my premise.
Because he values your opinion.
Not really.
Yeah,
but,
he does though, because he decides to listen to you over other people.
Okay, but here's the deal is the Saint Laurent, the Wranglers is what you would see is
nothing against Wranglers, by the way.
No, Wranglers are great.
Yeah.
If you're a Wrangler guy, I actually think some people can wear Wranglers better than others, and this is part of my point.
But so here's the thing too. Just while we're on, just side note, I feel much more comfortable with my dad wearing Wranglers than Levi's 511s. You know
but your dad's name's Chuck.
Yeah.
So he can do whatever he wants.
That's fine.
But so here's the deal: is we know when we look at, and this is part of the problem. And is you meet guys and they go, all right, dude, I want to get it like a nice pair of boots. And you go, all right, cool. And so the nice pair of boots they want range from whatever $200, $300, maybe they could pull one for $150. And at the end of the day, I go, do you have jean money? Why? Because you are doing a disservice to the boot that is up here, that is right in this range, okay? And you kind of say, look, it's obvious that the Wrangler does not go with the Saint Laurent. It's not because Saint Laurent is expensive. It is because in its design, it is objectively appealing. And here's the deal. It's film, it's music, it's art. It's everything, and you kind of go, no, like we know. And here's the other deal too. There's stuff that comes and goes, and there's stuff that stands the test of time. I heard this one guy said, he said, okay, like if you don't like Shakespeare, if you can't acknowledge Shakespeare is good, not do you like him even, he says that says more about you than it does about Shakespeare. Yeah. And what he's saying is, we have learned over the test of time, you can name any one of these artists that stood the test of time, and you kind of go, hey, that we know, and there's a guy, his name's Ian Robertson, he talks about this, he goes, a lot of it is time. Sometimes we need time to tell us if it is objectively good, if it's objectively beautiful, because sometimes, even in fashion, I have this theory in the early 2000s, fashion was breaking through walls and finally we got something good. And I think sometimes that's what it takes. It takes time. That's a whole nother. But at the end of the day, is we know. Like a t-shirt, jeans, and a pair of Chucks. Oh, that's what I'm wearing. Has looked good.
Did you just say the outfit you were wearing? Use that as an example.
Talk
of an
about-
outfit that looks good.
And then acknowledge
This is a
that it was
whole-
the outfit you were wearing.
yeah, and you try to slide that in there like, oh, look, it's what I'm wearing.
Travis did a whole podcast on fishing for a compliment. That's what he just did.
yeah,
But
that's week
here's,
2.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's what I'm hearing from Travis is that there is something that the boot or the classic van or the Chuck Taylor or something that it is pointing. I don't say pointing towards, but it is representing a thing. It's representing something. And this is sort of some of my notes I was taking on Kant earlier. It says the object is truly beautiful. It is truly It truly is justified in arousing the experience of our pleasure in its beauty. But the beauty the object arouses is not the object itself, but an ordering, a representation the object is involved in that it. The representation the object is involved in that exceeds any empirical notion we have of objects. So in other words, it's like its beauty is transcendental before the fact, right? So it is pointing towards something, right? So I would say this is like, do you think when you're saying that there is objective beauty, you're not really talking about whether the boot, the shoe, the jean or something is objectively beautiful? You're really talking about how it is pointing towards a beauty that transcends it. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I'm even getting at is that there is this. You go out, right? This is why we landscape or whatever. You go out,
Right.
You go to the beach and you go.
Yeah.
Like you might prefer the desert. You might prefer the ocean. I might prefer the mountains.
Right.
Whatever. And we all agree. We go, dude. These places are absolutely like what is it? The Salton Sea or what is that like, right? Is you just go, man, that's beautiful, but I prefer. And so I think there is subjectivity
Salton Sea
within.
is not beautiful, by the way. If you've ever been there.
Well, or
But
so, but like the
Just wanted to put
Right.
that out there.
Glamis, bro. So
I couldn't let that metaphor go unmentioned.
but see, I would argue a little bit that
Right.
that there's something in there when you look at photos.
Oh, so
when you-
subjectively?
No. What I'm saying is that okay. So yes, it's pointing to something.
right.
But I think it's this idea of this transcendent but intrinsic
Right.
beauty, this kind of this idea. It is good, even if you don't like country music, even if you don't like the you
Right.
can look at from when you're on a lift and you look out and you go, dang, that's beautiful. I prefer to be at the beach. You don't say it's not beautiful because you know
Right.
that it is
Exactly.
beautiful. You just go, I'd rather be looking at the ocean. I always say, where do you like your sunset from? Because the sunset is objectively beautiful.
So-
Can we agree on that?
Yes, but it seems to
But-
me like what you're saying by calling something objectively beautiful is that the majority of the population has unanimously voted.
No,
okay,
that's not what I'm
the classic van is a great thing. So that's why it's withstood the test of time, meaning for a couple of generations now we've said this is a good thing as opposed to the Barney boot, whatever. I don't even know what that Barney word means, but you say it, so I say it.
You'll get the hang of it.
Right, where we go, well, no, that one we're throwing out because it's no longer cool because it didn't withstand the test of time. I would say that doesn't make something objectively beautiful. It just means that from a subjective point of view, more people like it than don't like it.
So here's my question then. You both are using subjective. You keep saying subjective. What do you mean by subjective? When you're saying something is subjectively beautiful, what do you really mean by that term?
What I mean by subjective is that some people can prefer it, some people can like it, some people can not prefer it, some people can dislike it, and neither one are wrong because it is based on, it's the classic eye of the beholder.
Right. Okay. So that's and I think so. You're saying that the assessment you're saying whether this thing is whether they like it or not is based on their own personal preference.
Right.
But I don't think Trav and I are making that argument. We're actually making the argument that regardless of whether anybody likes it or anybody dislikes it or anybody has any opinion about it at all, the thing has beauty.
Right. So then the question would be, how do you get to that?
Right.
beauty
So we'd have to.
place?
So now what do you measure
Okay,
that by?
what do you-
So going back really
Yeah.
quick to what you were saying, like about Shakespeare, that guy. I don't know who said that, but
Me neither.
I think it was you.
Just sounded smarter.
But so here's what I'd say. So that guy comes out and he says, "Hey, if you don't like Shakespeare, it's like it's not Shakespeare's fault. It's your fault." Like in so many words, like he said, like it says more about you than it says about Shakespeare. That's a very arrogant statement.
So
Because-
here's
hold on.
Okay.
Because in that statement, what he is saying, no matter what he thinks he's saying, what he is actually saying is, I like Shakespeare, and so does most everybody else. So that's like what they used to say about Elvis fans. Like 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong. But I know that you hate Elvis.
That's right.
So,
and Nickelback.
So, but what was it? Propaganda? The what was it?
But they didn't sell themselves.
Liturgist podcast.
And I say, and here's the deal: Insane Clown Posse, trash.
Miracles,
well, yeah. But here's the deal. Here's the deal is a part of this, and I know it's a very arrogant premise because I'm the one delivering it, right?
Sure.
So now everyone automatically is against my what I am
Right.
suggesting, right? And they go, "Oh, you got the corner." What I'm saying is, I might even be limited, right? Is so if I'm grouping myself into it, I think I have an eye for certain things, or I can see certain things better than other people, and I think people get automatically offended by that. You're like, oh, you're so arrogant, and it's like, it's not that I don't think that it's that I'm arrogant. It's that I'm just saying, can't you see this? Like, why? Like, can't you see that this is good? Like, you can show me, and I'm not saying they're bad musicians. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the music that they're making is not good, right? Because they might be really good musicians. That's a terrible song, and it's a terrible album, and all of your albums are terrible. And so you just kind of go,
yeah, that's your opinion.
yeah.
But no, so this is your guy, Bourdieu, right?
Yes.
He's saying in I forget the article or the essay, but he says this: the eye in his, what he's talking about is the eye. He's talking about how we appreciate beauty, right? So how we can appreciate the aesthetics of something is a product of history reproduced by education. So, and then Kant says basically taste is produced by intellectual effort, not by whimsy and happenstance. So in other words, I think what Trav and I are saying is not that it isn't based on some sort of subjective statement. It's not that like saying that I prefer that over that. It's not that it's not based there. It is. It comes to us. We can only experience something subjectively because we are subjects. That's the only way I can experience the world.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that the objectiveness of it, the thing has a quality we would call beauty, right? That's what I would say. So it's not that you can't say that it isn't subjective, because Trav and I will only ever experience something based on our subjectivity.
Because you're limited
but
to
there
yourself.
isn't some sort of, that doesn't mean that to say that would be to deny that there is any sort of objectivity, that you only ever have the subjective.
Wait. So is Nickelback objectively good?
Okay,
Josh,
Josh behind the camera jumped in. I don't know, hold on. So Josh, are you for or against Nickelback right now?
I don't know. I feel
He's
like
for Nickelback. He's so
I don't like their music, but how can they be bad if they've sold millions of records? You have millions of people going, man, this album sucks, but I'm still going to pay $10
And this
for
is
it.
sort of what is at issue with what I'm saying is that taste or beauty, in fact, again, Kant says this, it's a public experience. It comes down to, beauty is not a private thing, right? So
we're right.
no.
No. Because if it was subjective, it would be a private thing. But because it's a public thing, it takes on an objective quality.
What I would say to him, if I could, is no. What I would say to him is no. It's private, but it's based off of majority rules.
No, so he's not saying
if more private people say
he's saying
beautiful.
Are you saying it's public?
No. He's saying that the pleasure that it exceeds is a public pleasure, meaning it's not just for me. Right? I don't look at the sunset and think that's just for me.
Okay.
I assume that other people are going to agree with me if I call it beautiful, right? So, but I don't necessarily. Well, I'm not going to go there. Well, I consider my wife beautiful, and that is a much more private, subjective issue, right? I don't expect you guys to necessarily call her beautiful. Now, I would say you guys should call her beautiful, right? That's why I think her beauty is objective, but it is a private pleasure. It's not a public one, right? Whereas the sunset, music, art, fashion, those are public sensations. Those are public pleasures that become, that end up transcending the very object itself.
So, well, because in your guys' argument, you're kind of saying the only reason that we like those things is because everybody says those things are good. Now, there's a lot of different things that we can be interested in.
Right.
Okay, and so because we could be interested in, there's so much different music to be interested in. And this is why I'm not saying, I think there's objectively good and objectively bad. I think we speak in this way too.
Right.
We speak, and I don't think it's just because, oh, it's just my subjective opinion.
Right.
I think it's because we can see it. And I do think that certain people are limited in their capacity, and I see limitations everywhere.
Right.
I can't be LeBron James. Like I just can't be him. I can't do what he can do. I'm limited in that way. This is why all it could be the pretty girls, you know, and they kind of go, oh yeah, and so you're going, well yeah, because you're not. And so you recognize we recognize those things, not because we all go in, all right, do you agree? Do you agree? Do you agree? It's because it just is.
I feel like when I think about what you are calling objectively beautiful, I think of as intrinsically valuable, and I feel like I see that as different things. And like here's what I think. And it's funny. I was thinking about what's an example of like a non-beautiful, intrinsically valuable thing, and the best example I could come up with was Beauty and the Beast, where you see them dancing in the ballroom, and she's like falling in love with this like horse dog person. Like I don't know, like you know what I mean? Like I don't know what he is, and
he's a beast.
And, yeah, I guess. And what happens is that she is like falling in love with this guy, but not because he's beautiful. I think that because within this horse dog, she is seeing she has now seen how valuable he is as a living being, and so because of that, because of the value, she's able to appreciate him. But she would never say that he is something beautiful.
But that makes him beautiful.
But let's go back.
But see, I feel like I see something.
But let's go back to.
But does it make him physically? No, it doesn't make him physically
Let's go
beautiful.
back to the sunset example.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's go back to the sunset example. There's no value in the sunset being pretty.
Well, sure, okay.
But we still consider it beautiful. So that's not based on value.
I disagree, because who do you want to watch a sunset with? Someone you love or your friends or whatever.
I'm talking
and that beauty allows you guys to share an experience.
But I can watch it by myself and consider it just as beautiful as when I watch it with my wife. So it's not the value of the thing.
But what if I don't like sunsets?
Well,
But that's
the
like
problem.
that's
because
a
I met someone.
preference. That's not a statement about it's the qualities that it has.
But I feel like more often than not, if you do not prefer the thing or the action or the item or the person, you will not find it beautiful.
That's the point.
I'll say it this way: you're rejecting your preference is saying I don't like those qualities. You're not saying those qualities don't exist.
Right.
So the quality is the beauty. You're saying, well, I don't like that type of beauty. That doesn't mean you're saying it's not beautiful.
But I feel like most of the time, I don't like those qualities. I wouldn't admit that they're beautiful.
Well, that's just pride. So,
but that's
based on.
now we're getting somewhere.
But that's based on
safe place.
But again, that's based on the pleasantness, or that's based on again what people call sensations. That's based on either your subjective experience or your physical experience. It's not based on it's based on that. It's not based on anything else.
Now I get what you're. Let me say I get where you guys are coming from. I'm just not. I'm not there yet. And I don't mean that you're smarter than me, but you are.
Oh.
But you are. But it's what I mean is like
All right, Domino's, and then a really good deep dish.
Have you had Domino's lately?
Yeah,
Not as bad as
Shout out to
They're in the lower echelon.
Right.
yeah, you should pick something else.
like Little Caesars.
Okay, Little Caesars.
All right, we're
Little Caesars. Right, there we go.
Finally agree.
You were gonna make it tricky. Shout out to Domino's.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Domino's.
Hey, by the way,
kind
it's
of.
not. But Domino's, if you're interested.
Just leave it right there.
Yeah.
So you go, no, you have these places, you know, like Domenico's in Long Beach. You have these, and they're objectively better. They're better. In fact, look, my wife doesn't like cheese for the most part. Okay, it doesn't mean that cheese isn't objectively good. She just doesn't like cheese, but she also likes pizza, so it's kind of hard to understand.
Does she eat cheese pizza?
She eats pizza with cheese on it. And she says she doesn't like cheese, and I'm like,
Well, that's like I don't like tomatoes, but I'll eat ketchup.
yeah.
That's different, though.
Well,
No, it is because we grew up in a culture where cheese is everywhere, right? So you go to a different country where there is no cheese, they try it and they go, "This is gross."
They don't say that.
like
You don't know
this.
that. You don't know that.
I've literally seen that exact situation happen.
Yeah, I've seen people come to this country and eat pizza.
But again, that's based on physical or subjective experiences with the object.
So my brother...
That doesn't mean the thing itself doesn't have the quality.
So my brother goes like this. He goes, I don't like goat cheese, but I know goat cheese is good.
Yeah.
See, I say, say that's stupid.
But how do you explain that? But if beauty is only subjective, how do you explain that statement?
Yeah.
Because I say, and I don't mean this in like a mean way, but I say that's a really dumb thing to say. Because because it's going like this. It's like, so I really don't like raw onions. Like you know, like you get like the circle ones at like a barbecue to put on your burger.
Yeah.
I really don't like that. So I would never say I don't like raw onions. I know onions are good though. I'd say no, they're bad. Like I don't like them.
But you're talking about palate.
Right.
You're talking about, so it goes back to, so the illustration.
I know people do like them. I'm saying I don't like them.
Well, it does get trickier with food.
All right, so we're going to have to take a quick break. We'll come back with Ryan with your thought on...
goat cheese.
Yeah, goat cheese.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, if you're in the Southern California area and are looking for the best way to improve your home, look no further than adding some always green synthetic grass today. Whether it's creating that awesome backyard that's kid and pet friendly, or that putting green to work on your golf game, Always Green provides installation and landscaping with only American-made products, such as their famous synthetic turf with advanced drainage technology and backed by a 15-year warranty that will have your yard looking great for a very long time. Always Green also installs retaining walls, custom lighting and driveways, and the most beautiful stone walkways, so if you live in the Southern California area, what are you waiting for? Financing is also available, so call for a free estimate today. 714-614-7814. That's 714-614-7814. Or stop by their store at 16772 Wanda Circle in Huntington Beach and get your home looking great with Always Green synthetic turf and putting greens. A proud sponsor of Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanican Media, and the PCC Multiverse channels.
All right, so we're back. So Ryan, you were talking about Travis's brother and goat cheese.
It gets hard with food, right? Because really what your brother, in my opinion, is saying, I don't think that this goat cheese is good, but culture has told me that I'm supposed to appreciate this, and you can fill in the blank with whatever that is. Yeah. And so if everybody is saying, no, goat cheese is good, I don't see it, but I know that I should be seeing it. And I think that plays into our point that makes it
great
preference. Right?
So you take 10 really good cheeses, all right? They won awards this last year. They were in the Cheese Fest. And we walk up and we go, all right, dude, those are, and I would argue, here's my point is it's not because everyone decided these are the 10 best cheeses. What I would say is, we know, like, those are really good fine wine. Those are really good craft beers. I just like Beer 7. Right, and this is actually something I talked to my brother about, as him and his buddies were actually kind of talking about this, is you take 10 of the most beautiful women in the world and we all walk in, right, and Keith's wife is one of them, and so he picks his wife, you know, and then, so you go, I like number 7, and I like number 3. We see that they're all objectively beautiful. I just prefer my taste, my preference, my palate, if you will, prefers this glass of wine. Right. Okay, like I know that that's a good. I know it's like, and it's not because everybody said it. It goes back to that it just like, you can't ignore that the fact that the design of the iPhone is objectively beautiful. It is a beautiful phone. It looks like you might want some other phone, but the design, and I even get into design. You start thinking about design in every aspect of it. As you kind of go, because the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, really, because you don't think like that. That's the problem. Nobody, and why don't you think like that? Why don't you think like that?
Because it's my own opinion. Because in my opinion, I think you're wrong. But I would also have to be reasonable enough to recognize, so like going back what you're saying about like the 10 supermodels.
So there's no such thing as an ugly person.
So No, in my opinion, there is. But to somebody else, they're not ugly, and that's where I think the subjectivity comes in. And so I recognize that. It's like, you know, when they say like there's a lid for every pot. When they say like there's somebody for every person, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe like, but like, hey, I'm like I don't know. For you that like could be hard. But then somebody marries that person, and I have to concede that that person goes, I think so and so is beautiful, and I go, really? Because I think they look like garbage water.
Or they say,
see,
you're good enough.
But see, I would then say, going back to your previous point, that is a judgment of value, not of beauty. You marry someone based on their value to you more often than you would.
Well, it's comprehensive.
But what I was talking about is how they saw them visually.
Right.
And so they found them visually appealing. But to me, and so to me, it is.
But now you're getting into this. You're getting into attraction, right? So they do studies about this in college classrooms. They rate. Okay, so you go, okay, give the person next to you and everybody in this room a 1 through 10. So it happens usually at the very end of it.
You want to do that right now, real quick? By the way?
Yeah. And so the person closest to you, it's a proximity thing, right? Proximity thing is I give you, say, an 8, right? And then I give you a 4 because you're further away from me. Okay.
I think that's pretty good.
That's not what I heard. Cut it in half. So by the end of the semester,
you could have said 7.
Yeah.
Hey, you said what he said. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm gonna give you something arbitrary, like a 2.
So by the end of the semester, I give him a 9 or a 10, and I give you a 2. And so what happens is you usually give the people that are further away from you a lower score than you gave them by the end of the semester, and the person closest to you. Also, we know this is true, is people become more attractive to us based on personality. And sometimes some of the most beautiful girls in the room, you meet them, you get the personality of a table, right? And they become lesser, you say physically, but I can't go to dinner with you because, oh my God. And so, yes, we understand that things enhance. We go, that enhances it, but at the core, we don't go, yeah, man, you're more beautiful because you have a better personality than you.
I think that in some sense proves, I don't want to say proves, but I think that ends up supporting Travis Knight's point, because again, go back to the flower idea. I don't need the flower, I don't need a rose to actually have aesthetic value. I don't need it. It can function, it can be as vital to the ecosystem as anything else, even if I don't consider it beautiful, but I still do consider it beautiful, so why? Right? That to me seems, that's kind of your point. Like the supermodel, the woman that has the personality of a table is still beautiful, but I'm not going to marry her because that is a judgment of something else. I can still judge it on the aesthetics of her, or of the aesthetics of the object. It doesn't matter. Its use to you isn't the point.
Right. I even think it gets into humor. You look at humor across the board, and we get into intellect.
Right.
Because when you look at the best comedians, some of the greatest comedians out there, that they're geniuses. They're smart. Right. They know what's going on. They're very sharp guys. They're very aware of what's going on. And I think that some people don't get it, therefore they don't laugh. But it doesn't mean they're not funny. And I go, hey, there's some guys that they just. So you look at that and you go, what is that? You know what I'm saying? You go, why can't you see that this is funny? How many people tell me I don't like Seinfeld? I go, I don't like you. And so you go once, but then all of a sudden they start to understand. And I think you can develop a palette for it.
Right.
You can develop a palette. You can begin to understand and see things. So I think that everybody has, someone said, a psychologist, ceilings of complexities, right? And sometimes you bump up against this, and I think this is part of the argument. Some of us are limited. Why can't we just be okay with the fact that some people are more beautiful than others and just appreciate that and go, no, that's really good, and I'm sorry you like Nickelback. But, there's really good music over here, and I wish you would even, you don't have to like rap music. And I even go like this, is the person that picks the 4, right? They go, well, does that person know they're a 4?
Yeah, so here's what I think. And this just goes to show, I definitely am not there yet in thinking what you guys are thinking, because I think like what you just said about the comedians, about how some people can't see, they're not laughing because they can't see that this person's actually funny. Those same people might be saying the same thing about you, that this dude is simple enough to where he is laughing at this thing that he cannot understand. It's not very funny, and all of us can understand that he's not very funny except this dude. Therefore, this dude doesn't get good comedy.
But here's what I'll say to that is that you will not find a person who loves comedy, who has experienced comedy, who watches a lot of comedy that doesn't find Jerry Seinfeld funny. So how do you explain that?
But I think that's too solid of a statement. I think you could definitely find people that are heavily involved in comedy that would say, I don't really like Seinfeld.
You're right. Hold on. You're right. However, that person would still acknowledge that they go, oh, well, Bill Burr's my guy or whatever, and they go, but I understand Seinfeld is objectively funny. That guy is a funny guy, but I prefer over here. I prefer this guy over here.
I think you wouldn't find anybody that just outright says he's not a funny person.
But I think that if they said that, you couldn't say that they're wrong.
No, I think you could. I think it says more about you than it does about Seinfeld.
No, because it gets back to what he's really saying is, I understand that the majority appreciates Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But I don't think that Seinfeld
I don't think the majority does.
But I think what he's saying, I don't think the person who's saying like about Shakespeare, the majority about goat cheese is not saying I acknowledge that the majority of people. I think they're saying I acknowledge that there is something in Seinfeld's jokes. There's something in goat cheese. There is something in Shakespeare that is worth appreciating.
Because he's saying it's landed with plenty of people in the past. So I appreciate the fact that he's been able to make people laugh.
But isn't that what funny is?
No, but so
making people laugh, and you do make enough people laugh, or enough people do like goat cheese. Isn't there something? Then there is something intrinsic to the object itself that is a transcendent property.
Those are all individual people saying, based off my experiences, based off the things that I've seen, I think Jerry Seinfeld's funny.
They come from such a wide cultural, racial, socioeconomic background that how can you say it is particular to how can you say it is a purely subjective thing?
Based on one individual,
right? Yeah, that individual says it. But then if you have millions of people, across various cultures who acknowledge the value, or not the value, the beauty or the quality of a thing, how can you say it is a subjective thing then?
No, I feel like I can easily say that because something like, so if we're sticking with Seinfeld, that's fine. Sure. Say the four of us are sitting here watching Seinfeld, and say Travis and I laugh at a joke, Ryan and Keith do not laugh at a joke. For us to look at them and go, you guys don't think that's funny? And you go, hold on. And so for me to go, you guys don't think that's funny? And you guys are like, no. And we're like, oh, you don't get good comedy. And to them, they could just as easily go, well, you guys don't get good comedy. And all you could do is go back and forth, because no matter to be honest, I understand and I am fully aware that there are things that 99.9% of people like take a sitcom like Seinfeld, or a lot of people like Seinfeld. But then if you have two people on the outliers that are like, I don't think Seinfeld's funny at all, you couldn't say you are objectively wrong because they find something else funny and it's not the thing that the 98 other people like.
I think you could say they're objectively wrong. I think you can say that you can say that they're objectively wrong if they're saying, not that I don't like Seinfeld, but that Seinfeld isn't funny. If they're saying that, right? If they're saying I don't like Seinfeld, I would never say that they're wrong. But if they're saying Seinfeld isn't funny, I'd be like, no, you don't understand comedy then, because he is just an objectively funny person.
And I think the danger is when you start to put numbers. I think numbers actually gets away from the point of what we're talking about. So what I'm saying is, I don't care if one guy sees it. I'm saying, is there such a thing that transcends whether or not you can see it or not?
Right.
Whether you can see it or not is the point is that I'm trying to make is maybe you just can't see it. Maybe you get up and you go, I just can't figure out. So here's the deal. You have the typical In-N-Out shirt, cargo shorts. I don't know where you got those shoes from, Dad. He's like, I don't know, and so
he got them from Sam's Club, by the way.
He's wearing Little League shirts, right? Yeah. Because that's what his kid does now. So I wear Little League shirts, and you go, no, that doesn't look good. And he goes, no, it does look good. This is what I like. And he's like, I don't even care what I wear, really. All right, let me dress you then. And if I dress you any way that I want to, I guarantee you're going to eventually have an opinion. And I think that people go like, no, I don't care what I wear. Those type of people, I'm like, for sure you care what you wear, because if I gave you something ridiculous that you thought was ridiculous, you have an opinion on it, right?
Right.
So you do have an opinion on it. But I would say is that the baseball dad, okay, that is wearing the Little League shirt, does not know how to dress. And I would say he doesn't even see it, or he might not care to dress nicer fashion style. Maybe he has no style. Maybe he just doesn't have that in him. Why? That's not that should not be a problem for us. Why can't we acknowledge that some people don't have that in them? Right. But he goes, well, this is what I like to wear, man. And you can just say, this is what I like to wear. We don't go, oh, you like to wear that? It looks good. You don't say that. You don't. That's not how. That's not your response.
That's your opinion.
That's not because it's your opinion. We just don't say it because we know he doesn't look good.
Right.
We know that that's not a good style.
But that doesn't make. But again, that doesn't make the statement. This is just what I like to wear wrong, because that's you can't say that that's a wrong statement. This is what David Hume says. He says it seldom or never happens that a man of sense, who has experience in any art, cannot judge of its beauty. So if you have experience in something, you're going to be able to see the beauty of it. That's just true. That doesn't mean that you have to like it, though, and I think this is where Trav and I are coming to. It's not, you don't have to like the classic Vans, but you can't deny that there is something in it that is or not. Again, I keep saying value, but
there's an inherent quality.
There's a quality in it that we would call beauty, right? We call that thing. We're just calling that quality beauty, and so you can say I don't like the classic Vans, but that doesn't mean that you're saying that thing doesn't have the quality of beauty. Especially if you go through, here's what a beautiful shoe should look like, right? Now, I will understand what you're going to say. I can already anticipate your objection. The objection is, where do those standards of a beautiful shoe come from, right? Is that...
That's fair.
Yeah, so
hey, I'm very smart.
Yeah.
That's the smartest question I've asked all night.
I just saw it in your face. Was that serious? Though, was that what you were going to go for? Go after?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Okay, go with your thing then. No, go with your thing then.
I didn't have much, but you actually helped me out. So that because as I was still trying to chew on that and think about it, and it makes sense. And it's funny because David Hume was kind of a throwback name for me because I had to study him in college. But
so last year,
yeah. Excuse me, 2.5 years ago. So
hey, if you include grad school,
yeah, I went to grad school for 5 weeks. Dropped out,
man.
Trying it again. City College. What's up? Go Vikings. But that is, but since you brought it up, that is a good question, and so please answer your question.
Okay, so I would say that yes, there are certain standards of taste that you can say, but that the standard of taste may come from a cultural thing. That's maybe true, but that doesn't deny that the objective quality of beauty in the classic band. That's what I would say.
But there's other things to that classic band. All right, it's fairly cheap compared to a lot of shoes.
No,
it looks $50, whatever, compared to your
what are you talking about? But boots and shoes are two different things.
Okay,
sorry.
But the classic Van is fairly reasonable as far as price goes.
Right.
The reason I like it is because it goes with anything, so I don't have to be an expert.
Right.
So I can just buy it and I can wear it with anything, and it's comfortable.
To Travis' point, you just said it goes with anything, and you don't have to be an expert.
Right.
So you're acknowledging
that it just is.
I would say that the majority of the people in this world would subjectively say that it goes with anything. Is that better?
But
this is important because I think that what we're saying is things that help us function in everyday life more than other things, i.e. the classic Van.
Right.
Are better. I would perceive the classic Van as better than some shoe that I have to match a whole outfit with because I don't know how to do that.
But beauty isn't a.
Which is to my point though. You don't know how to do that, and that's okay. You have up to a certain point. You would say, it's hard for me to see that, and so you kind of look out at the world and go, okay, but you also do have beauty recognition because we talked about that too.
Totally. But that's why I'm saying you guys are perceiving the classic Van as objectively beautiful.
Right.
And I would say no. The majority of the people are seeing that this is just a good choice.
It's functional.
And so
but beauty isn't functional. That's not what Travis.
I'm not talking about function.
It has nothing to do with the purpose of it.
But then you can't use the measure of time argument because all that's showing is that the Van has withstood the test of time. Because lots of people like me have come around and gone, I don't know how to do this, but the classic Van, $50.
No, because there's actually, I can give you, there's plenty of shoes you can wear that are a lot cheaper and they function in the same way, and maybe even slightly better.
Right.
And the point being is you go, those look good and I want to look good to some degree and I don't want to spend too much time because that's who you are. Right. You go, I don't want to spend too much time, you're the minimalist kind of mindset when it comes to fashion, right? And so you kind of go, no, they're showing, they're proving. So if in like 50 years we go, someone comes across Seinfeld and everyone goes, oh, that guy was just a blip. Right? Like that guy's not Shakespeare. Shakespeare we're continuing to teach and read and look at that Michelangelo, all that
Then
stuff.
you would say that Seinfeld's not objectively funny?
I would say this. Now, part of my theory though is I think we could see it now. We don't need time. And I think certain people can recognize it like more than others, which is that limitation part, right? And so time is actually really important. Look at what's coming back. There's a whole, like when you look at like the 30s, all right? That was like, in 20s, I think it's just like that style. You look at movies like Cinderella Man, you're like, man, those guys look good. That was a good look, and it will always be a good look. The 50s, the greaser, not greaser, I won't use greaser, I'll just say the jeans, and the white tee,
like the blue collar.
No, like the jeans, like a white tee, jeans, and Vans or boots.
Blue collar is what I'm describing.
Okay, blue collar.
You're describing right now.
So is just a good, like that looks. He has a cigarette in his mouth, and he looks good. It's just like that. Always, you can never go wrong with that look. In fact, you have a jean jacket with fur in it because it looks dope, and it looked dope 20 years ago, man.
In Point Break.
Exactly, in Point Break. Thank you. Right? You Roach, man. I wanted to be, he looked cool. Like, I think coolness actually gets passed out at birth. I don't think you can be cool. I think people are objectively cool.
You're born cool.
You're born, no.
It's like a Doritos ad.
Here's the slightest.
This
is where I will differ from Trav a little bit. I think timelessness is a very slippery concept, and I think we run into some real issues with that. I think whether Seinfeld 50 years from now, people, I don't want to say consider him funny, I think whether he's popular 50 years from now will not deny the fact that he's objectively funny.
No, yeah.
So if he is a blip, right? So even if he doesn't stand the test of time, there are authors that I've read that no one reads anymore that I can tell you, based on my experience reading literature, this person is an objectively good author, and no one reads him, no one would know them, and he hasn't stood that he or she, often a she, because history is terrible, that
for sure,
that they haven't stood the test of time. So I would say that timelessness, it's not that it's not part of it. I just wouldn't put as much weight on it as you're putting, I think.
No, yeah, actually, I would actually say you said what I wanted to say better. So, like, I would agree with you, and I think that goes back to my point: is it doesn't matter if anyone because there's things where you look at the way people dress. I even think like, hey man, like in ancient times, I'm like, dang, that looks cool. Like that, like I'm not wearing a robe, but like I'm not wearing a cloak, but I go. No, but there's something about
that guy's got a swag.
I was watching Braveheart the other night, and I go
naturally,
like, dang, dude, Mel Gibson rocks that kill, right? And I go, that actually looks good. It actually looks cool on him.
You're like, because that's a 21st century actor pretending like he.
But but I didn't need to see that movie. Is my point to go, man? That's a good look. Like that looks good.
But now, so what if I sit here and go, no, it's not.
I go, man, you just can't see it.
I say, no, you can't see it.
Get a different prescription. I don't know, like.
No, but see, this is the back and forth. I go, no, you can't see it. And you go, no, man, see, like that's a good look.
But you don't have anything to stand on. What are you standing on?
He has standards. He has a way. He can tell you why he thinks that. And I know this isn't you, but let's take the thing that you're. So, what is something that you just do not like? Like that that you might think that someone is. A lot of people like that you just don't.
Well, so let's say this. Let's take your. I don't know. We can take Braveheart. I don't care. And I say that, and I go, nah, that's a stupid look.
So why do you think that though? Why would you say that that's a stupid look? What standards are you going to use?
I think based on the standards of. Hey, so we're talking about, especially if we were talking about longevity and test of time and things like that. Most people in Scotland don't dress like that.
Yeah, because pants are objectively more useful than a kilt.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the kilt isn't beautiful. But that doesn't mean the kilt isn't beautiful.
So hold on, let me just interject real quick. Here's the deal. That was perfect. Here's what I'm saying is if all beauty is subjective. If beauty's subjective, then I would argue there's almost no such thing as beauty. So
That's meta.
so
No, but that's true.
no, but that.
But
But
I'm fine with this, maybe.
But okay, this is,
That's true.
so don't ever. But so then your comments on what is beautiful are arbitrary. It doesn't make sense, and don't even use that anymore. Don't even suggest something is beautiful. Just go. I don't know. I don't even know what you would do.
Right.
I
So
feel.
here-
Why would we even talk about anything looking good?
So the funny thing is, that I am way more on board with that than talking about like this being like kilts being objectively cool, because
Not cool.
No,
It looks good.
so looking objectively good, because I have no problem saying, yeah, if someone said you using the word beautiful is nonsensical because it's strictly your opinion if this is true, and I have no problem saying that's fine. I'm still going to use it even if it's nonsensical to you. Me calling this thing beautiful at least makes sense to me.
So here's my question then. What do you do with the fact that millions of, again, I'm going back to this question, what do you do with the fact that millions of people do like Shakespeare? You remove that from the subjective realm because that is beyond subjective. That is beyond the subject.
Once it's all relative, then
Because then you can't make your other point that beauty is also culturally relevant.
What I would do with that is a reason why a lot of people that I know like Shakespeare is because they were taught they had to in high
Okay,
school.
but so here's what I'm going to come back to. That's not subjectivity.
Okay, explain that.
Because that's not based on the subject. That's not based on your likes or your preferences. You're taught that is from outside of you. Subjectivity is inherently, again, this is the idea, it's inherently from me and me only.
But
So
the
if it
problem
comes
with
out-
that
it
is-
comes outside,
Could you
that's
say
not subjective
could
though.
you say that a lot of these things that you maybe think are objective that you inherently feel actually were taught to you?
Yes, but I would say that makes it relative, not subjective.
So beauty is taught.
Yes, but I would say that makes no. The appreciation of beauty is taught. It is taught. Yes, I agree with that. Travis and I have been saying that the whole time. You can learn to appreciate beauty better.
Right?
Right.
Which means that somebody gets to set the standard of beauty
Yes.
and then teach everybody else what
But
that
that's not
what that beauty
subjectivity.
is.
That's relative. That is a relative thing.
Hold on,
All right,
we
so we got to take a break real
Yeah.
quick. We're going to come back to this idea of relativity and again subjectivity.
If you're tired of sifting through flea markets for rare and unique games, we can help. Retro City Games in Henderson, Nevada, only 5 minutes from the Las Vegas Strip, has all your favorite gaming staples, classics, and a wide selection of rare games with new stuff always appearing on our shelves. Come in and chat with Nicole or Doug about your love of games and watch as they help you complete your collection or find your childhood favorite. And don't forget, Retro City Games loves trade-ins. So if you have any Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, Xbox, PlayStation, or even PC games, come in and visit Retro City Games today. Welcome to the new metropolis of gaming, Retro City Games.
So we're back, and I was before the break. I was trying to make a point between the differences between subjectivity and relativity, and I think in today's world we often mistake the two. And I think relativity is about your relative position to an object. Subjectivity is about the subject's perspective, meaning mine. So when I say that beauty isn't subjective, that there are certain standards of beauty that may be relative, I mean that, yeah, I may learn a relative standard of beauty, but that doesn't mean that the thing doesn't have some sort of objectivity, right? So object is based on the object, subject is based on the person, relative is based on your position to the object, right? So I think when you guys were using subjectivity, what I was hearing, and this is kind of what I was making at the beginning, is I was hearing relative position, right?
Sure.
And I think that's where I was landing and with this idea. So now that we've all said our point, and as Kyle was saying, it's getting a little bit circular. So let's come back to it. Is there such thing as objective beauty? Kyle, go.
I say... And dude, I didn't think I was gonna say this, but hold on, I didn't think I was gonna say this. Maybe, and I didn't think I was gonna be swayed as much as I was. When you're talking about relative, and and I'm sure it was clear for any of the listeners to see that you guys are making a lot of good points, and I was barely keeping my head above water. And so I think there are arguments that were made that I go no, and so maybe that's relativity that we're talking about, and then points that were made that I'm really searching to try and find a hole in it, and those were some of the questions they were asking. So I still lean towards no, but I'm closer to maybe.
Okay. All right, Trav. Objective beauty or no?
yeah, I obviously I think there's such thing as objective beauty, this idea of, and I actually, where this came from was just kind of going like, why can't you see this? And I know it sounds a little bit arrogant, but why can I see this and you can't see this? But it gets into kind of every area of life. And my whole deal is I actually think this is a good thing. I think that teaching people to see things, or this idea of objective beauty is actually important. And I don't think the goal is that everyone gets on board with this one thing. I think I think there is such a thing. I think it is intrinsic to who we are.
Right.
I think it's this idea of truth. I think it's this idea of truth, is this idea of beauty and goodness that we all recognize and that we can all kind of agree on. And I just think some people are limited in different areas, and we kind of get into preference and taste. But it all came from, like, I feel like there is a stand, like there is levels, if you will, even. And so objective beauty for me, or objective good coolness, or whatever it is yeah, I think that it exists, and I think it actually benefits mankind.
Okay, Ryan, objective beauty or no?
God, this is good. I think my conclusion is I'm a fan of beauty.
Yeah.
Like, I think the fact that we can see and perceive beauty is a beautiful thing, right? And so where my mind's going in this last hour is, I think it's awesome that you have an ability to see fashion, Trav, in a way that I can't see it, and that I can learn to appreciate it through your eyes, or an 18th century author that I wouldn't learn to appreciate unless I'm talking to you about it, or the Broncos are beautiful. whatever it
Peyton
is.
is objectively good.
That's true. There we go. He sold me on that. Yeah. But I think that the fact that we can learn from other people's, what I would call, subjective viewpoints, to appreciate this thing called beauty is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and I sort of land on this idea that beauty is a quality that we recognize, and that we can get maybe closer to, or we can get a more concrete sense of what is and what isn't beautiful. But the idea that there is some sort of beauty out there, and that it exists independent of my preference of it, I think is, for me, to your point, sort of points towards something in us, and I think, Trav, you said this too, is that there's something in us that we want to recognize, and there's something in that we think there is something there that I almost like I need it not to exist, but I need it to be beautiful, because I want it to there's something in it that we recognize in creation that's like, okay, yes, there's something there that is independent of me, that's independent of the thing that I can recognize, and sort of that's where I land. And to me, that's why I love studying beautiful things, right? I love studying beautiful literature. I love studying beautiful art, because and again, this goes back to what we said, it's a transcendent thing. It sort of takes me out of myself. Yeah. And I think that's why I think that the objective qualities of beauty in things is a good thing.
It's good. Can I end us on a quote?
Go for it.
From Emerson. He says, "For the world is not painted and adorned, but is from the beginning, and God has not made some things beautiful, but beauty is the creator of the universe."
When you got into the stuff I get hung up on is like the "why don't you see this?"
right.
or things like that. The stuff that I find a harder time going against is like the intrinsic beauty outside of objectivity and objectivity of stuff. Yeah, I think that's right. That's why I said I can concede to that, but it's like the "why don't you understand this?" the fashion through time and things like that I still can't get.
And again, when I was looking at, like, again, when I study manual content, I teach it with my students. It's I look at what he's really talking about, and this is what you're talking about too. Is the function of the brain that is judgment, right? Which is, what do we do with that, right? And I think what you're saying is, and lots of us as people who write about aesthetics, people who write aesthetic theory, basically say that judgment of beauty is definitely learned, right? And I think that's what you guys are pointing to, is that what we call beautiful is I would say maybe it's subjective, but that doesn't mean that the thing itself doesn't have beauty.
So you just tapped in on something and this for me is important.
Right.
This for me is important to kind of this whole argument and this whole discussion, but what did you just say? You just were saying, say what you said again.
Judgment.
So it's like what we talk about when we call something beauty, like what we judge as beauty. So that's the ability to judge is something that we learn, right? That is we gain the sort of adeptness at what we consider beautiful or not, or judge beautiful or not. That is a learned quality.
Okay. So so it gets into this being limited.
Right.
So I'm
Right.
limited in my ability when it comes to math.
Right.
Why can't we be limited in our ability to see beauty?
Well, because math is objective.
No, what? so with that,
It's kind of true.
so
Arithmetic.
so hold on. So let me read you a quote real quick from Plato.
We also need to do an
We need
intro
to do
and
an
a
intro.
sign off.
I know, but let me read you this quote, Plato. Let no one ignorant of geometry enter here.
Right. But then you're talking about platonic ideals, and that's a whole different topic.
No.
Yeah,
No, it has
is.
to do. No, it has to do with that embedded in the nature.
Right. But he's talking about ideal forms, and that's what we were getting to. That's what I was going to go there, but I felt like that wasn't it. What I think you're saying is that they're like the Vans points towards an ideal shoe. Right? There's something, and I don't mean you're actually literally saying that, but like there's some ideal that these objects are pointing towards, and that's what we're finding, trying to get closer to.
But I'm saying it's aesthetically in the design, it's pleasing to the eye because the design is objectively
Right, and I would agree with that, but I don't know that that's the same thing as, I don't know.
What
That's
Plato's
maybe, yeah. I
So
don't know.
All right, we've reached the end of episode 1 of What About This, produced by Humanican Media. You can follow us at podcast.com or on iTunes, and also our Twitter, WAT_podcast. And until next time, we will see you later.
That's to us people that can feel things. It hurts.